Former guest girl, actress, Marilyn Monroe lookalike, and reality TV star Anna Nicole Smith was a tabloid sensation in the early 90s and early 2000s. Her voluptuous curves and appetite for the limelight, fame, and everything that went with it was insatiable.
This was a woman who wanted more. She was addicted to more.
There's no way she could look like that in Texas and not find a wealthy billionaire.
But when she overdosed on prescription drugs at the age of 39, she left behind a legacy that incited battles within battles, and the world became addicted to the drama.
The Anna Nicole Smith case is the granddaddy of all estate cases.
These people had so much money. If they didn't die, they'd probably still be litigating today.
The fame, the fortune, the legacy of Anna Nicole Smith. And understandably, Marshall's 55-year-old son, Pierce, isn't exactly welcoming his new stepmom with open arms.
After Anna Nicole Smith and J. Howard Marshall get married, Pierce Marshall is furious with this. I mean, this is a big threat to him inheriting this Texas oil fortune. Pierce Marshall was really worried that Anna Nicole Smith was trying to have a baby with J. Howard Marshall. That would have undermined the inheritance completely, because then the baby would have had inheritance rights, and Anna Nicole Smith would have been controlling that through the baby. So he does anything and everything he can to put a stop to it.
Even one of J. Howard Marshall's lawyers proposes ways to protect the family money. But Anna Nicole files an injunction accusing Pierce of meddling in her affairs.
One would think that with a billion-dollar estate, you would absolutely get a prenup before you marry a 26-year-old stripper.
It really would have protected everybody, but you can only imagine the conversations that were going on in the bedroom and how Anna Nicole Smith probably wanted nothing to do with the word prenup at the time.
And on August 4th, 1995, just 14 months after they marry, J. Howard Marshall dies of pneumonia at 93.
Anna Nicole Smith and Pierce Marshall fought like cats and dogs. After J. Howard Marshall passed away, they even fought over his ashes. They couldn't agree to have one funeral, so they had to have two separate funerals because they couldn't see eye to eye on anything. And that was really a precursor of what was to come over this enormous battle for the money.
Anna Nicole is devastated and shocked to learn her husband had no less than 6 wills, and none of them name her. What's more, the houses he bought for her were in his name. Marshall's entire estate is in a trust fund for Pierce.
Pierce Marshall, he convinces his father to make his trust irrevocable, meaning he can't change it, which guarantees that Pierce, and not Anna Nicole Smith, is going to inherit the money.
And Anna Nicole Smith was making allegations that when Pierce did this, J. Marshall couldn't even read, he couldn't even write legibly. So there's a lot of questions about whether or not he was actually competent and knew what he was signing when Pierce took him to that attorney's office.
Anna Nicole takes the Marshall family to court, insisting that her husband promised her half of his estate and intended to set up a trust for her.
Anna Nicole Smith was married to her husband for 14 months, and during that time, he gave her about $1.6 million in jewelry. He gave her homes, he gave her a ranch, and he gave her lots of cash to go shopping and spend.
So it's not like she should have been destitute when he passed away. In total, she received about $6 million at least.
But when you're used to spending $30,000 on one gown, you know, that's a pretty big lifestyle to maintain, so a $500 million would definitely help out.
Jane. And in September of 2000, a California judge awards her $450 million from her husband's estate.
Pierce Marshall made a huge tactical error here. He opened the door to the lawsuit in California. If he just would have left things alone in Texas, he would have won, and this case would have been over years and years ago. He screwed up by suing in California.
He did, and Anna Nicole Smith benefited from it. She received a verdict of $450 million in the California court, and on top of that, she got $25 million in punitive damages as well to punish Pierce for his behavior.
But pure body, Virgie wants her buried in a family plot in Texas. Howard wants her buried in the Bahamas.
You would think she would want to be buried next to her son, especially given her childhood and her mom saying she was garbage. She didn't seem to have a good relationship with her mom. So it's very interesting when celebrities pass away, all these family members come out of the woodwork trying to get a piece of the action, whether it's over money, whether it's over the body, remains. We've seen it all.
Her estate could end up declaring bankruptcy.
Anna Nicole Smith did have a will, and her will left everything to her son Daniel. The problem was Daniel predeceased her, and she specifically excluded any unnamed children in her will.
It causes problems, and that's why everybody needs to update wills when they have a child born. But it's especially important when you have language in your will that says any unnamed children aren't going to inherit. Now, Danny Lynn did end up inheriting. Of course, the only thing there was to inherit was $10,000 and a big mess. And the mess started with the big question of who was Danny Lynn's father.
Although Howard K. Stern's name is on the birth certificate, entertainment photographer Larry Burkhead insists that he is the biological father. Two other men stepped forward with claims. A former bodyguard, Alexander Denk, and Prince Frederick von Anhalt, Zsa Zsa Gabor's 90-year-old husband, who claims they had a 10-year-long affair. Anna Nicole's half-sister claims Anna Nicole had frozen J. Howard Marshall's sperm and that Danny Lynn was his biological child. The judge orders DNA tests.
But you have to wonder if these guys were coming forward with dollar signs in their eyes, thinking they're going to get this big inheritance because as the father of Danny Lynn, they're in line to get all this money.
Howard K. Stern vows to go back to the courtroom on Anna Nicole and Danny Lynn's behalf to yet again fight for the J. Howard Marshall inheritance.
Normally, cases are litigated sometimes a year, sometimes multiple years. But when you have a cases in this case, that are being litigated for 18 plus years, the attorney fees, court costs, everything involved has got to be astronomical.
And it's really a great lesson for any feuding heirs out there that you got to consider settlement. I mean, how much better off would Anna Nicole Smith and Pierce Marshall both have been if they merely had settled? Of course, when they couldn't even agree on how to divide up the ashes.
They both dug their heels in, and that's what happened.
But there was more than enough money to go around. So the California district judge even referred to the attorney who did the estate planning and found a lot of fault with him and pointed out that this attorney referred to Anna Nicole Smith in his legal file as Miss Cleavage. Now, I don't know if you remember, but we learned that the first day of law school, you don't refer to women in your files as Miss Cleavage.
Judge Carter's decision means that Danny Lynn could receive up to $49 million.
We know that the California courts are going to be awarding potentially millions of dollars in sanctions to Anna Nicole Smith's estate. And who's going to benefit from that? Danny Lynn.
But that money was set aside for legal fees and based on the amount of legal fees that Anna Nicole Smith and her estate incurred. What that means is when these millions of dollars get awarded, they're probably all going to go to the lawyers. I don't know that Danny Lynn's going to see a dime of that money.